They chose my sister over me. My whole life. So I let them see what that led to. Hi everyone. Today we have an emotional and powerful story that's sure to leave an impression. But before we begin, please consider supporting the channel by subscribing. It helps us grow and continue bringing you more amazing stories. Now let's begin. I'm a 26-year-old woman, and for as long as I can remember, my parents treated my older sister Emma as the center of the universe. Everything she did was celebrated like a national holiday, while my achievements were barely acknowledged. Growing up, Emma was the golden child, charismatic, outgoing, and confident. She was homecoming queen, captain of the debate team, and the first in our family to attend an Ivy League university. My parents spent thousands on her extracurriculars and proudly displayed her awards all over the house. Meanwhile, I was quieter and academically focused. I graduated with honors, earned a full scholarship to a state university, and built a successful career in finance. But my accomplishments were usually met with a quick, "That's nice," before the conversation shifted back to Emma's latest adventure. This pattern continued into adulthood. When Emma bought her first apartment, my parents helped with the down payment. When I bought mine, they sent me a houseplant. When Emma's startup hit a rough patch, they invested $50,000 to keep it going. When I needed financial help after emergency surgery last year, they said money was a bit tight. I brought it up with them several times over the years. "It feels like Emma's achievements matter more than mine," I told my mother once. She looked surprised, then defensive. "That's ridiculous. We're proud of both of you. Emma just needs more support." That was always the reasoning. Emma needed more encouragement, more financial help, more attention, and I was expected to understand, because I was the responsible one, the independent one, the one they didn't need to worry about. The final straw came when my father turned 60 last month. I spent weeks planning a special dinner at his favorite restaurant, coordinated with extended family, created a memory photo album, and had a custom watch engraved with his initials. 2 days before the celebration, Emma called to say she was flying home last minute. She had big news. Suddenly, the entire event was rescheduled for a casual Friday lunch, because my parents thought it would be more special if Emma could announce her news during Saturday dinner. Her amazing news? She got a promotion. Not a new job, not an engagement, just a regular promotion that easily could have waited. As I sat there watching my parents rave about Emma's promotion, while my dad's milestone birthday became an afterthought, something inside me shifted. I decided I was done chasing equal treatment and hoping for a different outcome. The next morning, I called my supervisor at work. "Remember that transfer opportunity in Seattle you mentioned? I'd like to apply." 2 weeks later, I was packing my apartment and preparing to move across the country. I didn't make a big announcement or ask for permission. I simply told my parents once everything was finalized. "Seattle?" my mom said when I told her. "That's so far away. Why would you move there?" "It's a great opportunity," I replied, "and I think some distance will be good for me. But what about family dinners, holidays? We'll never see you." I smiled. "I'm sure you'll adjust. After all, you've always said I'm the independent one." 3 months into my new life in Seattle, I found a surprising sense of peace. At first, my phone was buzzing with messages. "How's the new place? Made any friends? When are you visiting?" More attention than I'd received in years. I responded politely but kept it brief. I had my own life to build, a new job to settle into, an apartment to furnish, and a city to explore. Eventually the messages slowed. Emma's latest crisis took center stage again. She'd broken up with her boyfriend and was heartbroken. My mom called one night, sounding exhausted. "I can't talk long. Emma's having a tough time. I'm staying with her for a few days." "I understand." I truly did. That's exactly what I expected. My first big test came around Thanksgiving. "We really hope you'll come home," my mom said. "Emma's hosting this year at her new house. Everyone will be there. Actually, I've made other plans. Some coworkers and I are doing a Friendsgiving, and I've already committed." After a few attempts to persuade me, she reluctantly accepted. Then my dad, who rarely called, phoned me himself. "Your mom's really upset. She says you're pulling away from the family." "I'm not pulling away," I said calmly. "I'm just building my own life, and that includes making my own commitments." He sighed. "I don't understand why you're being so difficult. Emma always makes the effort, even when she lived abroad." There it was, the same comparison I'd heard all my life. "I'm not Emma," I said simply. And I've made my decision. Thanksgiving came and went. I posted some photos of our Friendsgiving, a cheerful gathering with food, laughter and people who valued my presence. The next day, my mother called. "Looks like you had fun with your friends," she said, as if the word tasted sour. "I did," I replied. "How was dinner at Emma's?" That opened the floodgate. For 20 minutes, she listed all of Emma's hosting mishaps. The turkey was dry, the house was too small, the plates didn't match. I listened, wondering if she realized what she was really saying, that even when Emma failed, she got more attention than I ever did when I succeeded. As December approached, I decided not to come home for Christmas either. Instead, I booked a solo trip to a mountain resort outside Seattle. This decision caused even more uproar. My mom cried. My dad was angry. Extended relatives texted, wondering what was wrong with me and why I was abandoning family traditions. What struck me most was how my absence caused more of a reaction than my presence ever had. For years I showed up quietly, watching Emma take the spotlight. Now that I'd stopped playing that role, the entire family dynamic felt off balance. 6 months into my life in Seattle, I realized something. I was happy. Work was challenging and fulfilling. I had a small but close-knit circle of friends. I'd even started dating a guy named Michael, a software engineer I met at a local cafe. Back home, things were changing. Despite the $50,000 investment from our parents, Emma's business was failing. My dad admitted during a call, we might have to remortgage the house. Emma's in real trouble. I listened empathetically, but didn't offer solutions. After all, I'd been told for years that Emma needed support, while I needed to figure things out on my own. My mom noticed the shift. "You don't seem very concerned about your sister," she said. "I'm sure you and Emma will figure it out," I replied. "You always do." "That's not very sisterly." "Mom, my whole life I've been told Emma needs help, and I need to be independent. I'm just following the family script." Emma eventually called me herself, something that rarely happened unless she needed something. "So, Mom says you're being weird about not helping with my business situation," she started. "I'm not being weird," I corrected her gently. "I'm just not getting involved." "But this is serious," she insisted. "I could lose everything. The family needs to pull together." "Emma, when I needed a loan last year after my surgery, what did you do?" She hesitated. "That was different. That was just a medical bill. This is my entire career. How is it different?" I asked. "I had a need, and you decided it wasn't your problem. You're having a need now, and I'm making the same decision." The following week, my parents called a family meeting over video chat. When I logged in, their solemn faces filled the screen. "We need to discuss what's happening with Emma's business," my mother began. "The situation is dire, and as her family we need to support her. Your father and I are doing everything we can, but we thought you might want to contribute as well." "Contribute what, exactly?" "Well, financially," my father said. "We know you're doing well in your new position, and unlike us, you don't have a mortgage or other major expenses." I sat there momentarily speechless. After years of being told to be self-reliant while they subsidized Emma's every whim, they were now suggesting I hand over my savings to bail out her failed business. "I'm sorry," I said at last. "That's not going to happen." Their expressions hard. "This isn't like you," my mother said. "You've always been understanding about helping family." "I'm still the same person," I replied calmly. "I'm just no longer accepting the role you've assigned me. Emma is an adult. Her business failures are her responsibility, not mine." That evening, over dinner I told Michael about the call. He listened intently, then said something that stuck with me. "You know what stands out to me? They never even asked how you're doing." That whole conversation was about Emma's needs, and what they expect from you. He was in a 30-minute meeting supposedly about family. Not once did they ask about my life, my work or my happiness. It was the clearest confirmation yet, that stepping away had been the right choice. A year after moving to Seattle, the landscape of our family dynamic had changed dramatically. My parents' financial situation worsened after they took out a second mortgage to save Emma's business. Despite all their efforts, the business failed. Emma was left unemployed, and my parents were stretched thin. She moved back in with them temporarily, as she figured out her next move. Meanwhile, my life flourished. I was promoted again at work. My relationship with Michael had deepened. We were even discussing moving in together. My mom's calls took on a different tone, less demanding, more curious. "Tell me about your job," she'd ask. Or, "What's Seattle like in the summer?" At first, The conversations felt awkward, like she was learning how to talk to me, not as Emma's background character, but as an individual. Over time, they became more natural. As the holidays approached again, I faced another decision. This time, they invited me home, not for a big family gathering, just for a few quiet days around Christmas. Just the four of us, my mom said. We miss you. After some thought, I agreed. I was curious to see if the subtle changes over the phone would translate into real ones in person. That first evening was stiff. We stuck to small talk, while Emma dominated the conversation with updates on her job hunt and dating disaster. The next morning, I came downstairs to find my mother alone in the kitchen, making breakfast. We worked together in silence until, unexpectedly, she turned to me. I've been thinking a lot about what you said last year, she began cautiously, about how Emma always needed help, while you were expected to handle everything yourself. It's okay, Mom, I said softly. I'm not looking for an apology. I've made peace with our family dynamic. But that's the thing, she said, setting down the spatula. I'm not sure watching you this past year, how well you've done on your own, and seeing Emma struggle, even with all our help, it's made me wonder if we really did either of you any favors with how we raised you. She paused, then added, I'm proud of you. I don't think I've said that enough. You've built a good life for yourself and you did it without much help from us. It was the acknowledgement I'd been waiting for my whole life, delivered quietly, in my parents' kitchen on a cold December morning. Thank you, I said simply. The moment was cut short by Emma stumbling into the kitchen in her pajamas, complaining we'd woken her up. But something had shifted. Over the next few days, I noticed more changes. My dad pulled me aside to ask in-depth questions about my work, not out of obligation, but with real curiosity. My mom showed me a shelf in the family room where she'd arranged the photos I'd sent from Seattle, alongside a framed certificate of a professional award I'd received. Emma, on the other hand, seemed increasingly irritated by the attention coming my way. On my last night home, she cornered me in the hallway. So you're the favorite now, she said bluntly, her expression sharp. Must feel good after playing the victim all these years. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I hadn't noticed before. Emma had built her identity around being the golden child, the successful one, the daughter who shined the brightest. And now that the spotlight was shifting, she didn't know who she was anymore. I never wanted to be the favorite, I said gently. I just wanted to be valued equally. And I'm not playing any role anymore. I'm just being me. I'm just living my life, she scoffed, but I could see uncertainty in her eyes. Whatever, enjoy it while it lasts. I'll be back on my feet soon, and things will go back to normal. I shook my head. I don't think they will, and maybe that's better for all of us in the long run. 2 years after I left, my decision to move to Seattle had sparked changes I never could have predicted. My relationship with Michael had developed naturally. We were now living together in a spacious apartment, overlooking Lake Union, discussing long-term plans. Back home, my parents had been forced to downsize, selling the family home we grew up in, and moving to a smaller townhouse in a more affordable neighborhood. Emma, unable to find work that matched her ideal self-image, had eventually taken a job at a local retail store. She still lived with our parents, contributing little to household expenses, while frequently complaining about her situation. My relationship with our parents had shifted into something more balanced. Our conversations no longer revolved solely around Emma's needs or accomplishments. Emma, on the other hand, had grown increasingly resentful. She rarely joined family video calls, and when she did, she made passive-aggressive remarks about my perfect life and how some people just get lucky. The most telling moment came when our parents announced plans for a small gathering to celebrate their 35th wedding anniversary. I agreed to fly home for the weekend, curious to see how the family dynamics would play out in person. When I arrived, I found their new home modest but cozy. What immediately caught my attention was the wall of family photos in the living room. In our old house, that wall had been dominated by pictures of Emma. I was surprised now to see an equal number of photos of me, recent ones from Seattle, older ones from childhood, and achievements that had previously gone unrecognized. My mother noticed me staring at the photo wall, and walked over hesitantly. I realized we didn't have enough pictures of you, she said. I found these in old albums. I should have framed them years ago. That simple acknowledgement brought an unexpected lump to my throat. During dinner, Emma alternated between sullen silence and attempts to steer the conversation back to herself. But what had changed wasn't Emma's behavior, it was how everyone responded to it. Our parents no longer automatically shifted focus to accommodate her interruption. After dinner, As we lingered over coffee and dessert, my father stood up to make a toast to my mother. It was a short, heartfelt speech about their years together, ending with gratitude for the family they'd built. To my beautiful wife and our 2 wonderful daughters, he said, raising his glass, each accomplished in her own way. Emma's expression darkened at that line, the clear acknowledgement that we were separate individuals with different paths, not just her in the spotlight and me in the background. Later that night, she cornered me in the kitchen. Must be nice to swoop in for a weekend, and have everyone fawning over you. Some of us are here dealing with real life every day. I'm not here for attention, Emma, I said calmly. I'm visiting for Mom and Dad's anniversary. Whatever. She scoffed. You left when things got hard. I stayed. I've been helping them while you built your perfect little life across the country. I moved for a job opportunity, I replied. You're still living in our parents' house at 30 because you can't support yourself. That's not the same. Her face flushed with anger. You think you're better than me now. I don't think I'm better than you, I said honestly. I never did. I just stopped measuring my worth against yours. And maybe it's time you did the same. The next day, as I prepared to return to Seattle, our parents drove me to the airport. At the departure drop-off, my father surprised me by getting out of the car and pulling me into a hug. I'm proud of you, he said gruffly. Not just for your job or your relationship, but for the person you've become. Strong, independent. He cleared his throat. I think maybe we didn't show enough appreciation for that before. My mother hugged me next, holding on a little longer than usual. We miss you, she said softly, but we understand why you had to go. Update. 5 years after moving to Seattle, my life had taken shape in ways I once wouldn't have dared to imagine. Michael and I were now married, living in a home we bought together. I had been promoted to a senior leadership role at work, managing a team and helping guide the company's future. Back in my hometown, my parents had adjusted to their new lifestyle. My dad came out of retirement to work part-time at a local hardware store, while my mom had formed new friendships in their townhouse community. Emma's path had been more complicated. After years of struggling to find stability, she finally moved out and got an apartment with a room. She cycled through several jobs before landing one at a marketing agency, where to everyone's surprise, she seemed to be thriving. Then came the call that changed everything again. My mother, her voice trembling, told me that my father had suffered a serious heart attack. He was stable but would require bypass surgery and a long recovery. I booked a flight immediately. When I arrived at the hospital the next morning, my father looked smaller, somehow pale against the white hospital sheets. Emma paced nervously near the window. There she is, my father said weakly as I entered, his face lighting up despite his condition. My Seattle girl. I stepped out to find some dinner, leaving Emma with our father in the hospital. In the cafeteria, my mother looked at me with tired eyes. I want to tell you something, she said. When your father was in the ambulance, when I wasn't sure if he'd make it, do you know what he kept saying? He kept saying he needed to talk to you, that there were things he needed to tell you. She reached across the table and gently squeezed my hand. I think he's carried a lot of regret about how things were between you. We both have. Watching you build your life these past few years, it's made us see things differently, the way we treated you compared to Emma. She shook her head. We thought we were doing what was best for both of you. Emma always seemed to need more support, and you were so capable, but we didn't realize how it felt from your side. Mom, you don't have to. No, I do, she interrupted, her voice soft but firm. We were wrong. We failed you in many ways, and I'm sorry for that. Truly sorry. The apology I had once longed for now sat between us. Sincere, though almost unnecessary. I had moved beyond needing their validation, and yet hearing the words still brought a sense of healing. The next few days settled into a rhythm as we prepared for my father's surgery. My mother and I handled the practical tasks, while Emma surprisingly stepped up in her own way, bringing coffee and snacks, updating relatives, and maintaining a positive attitude that lifted our father's spirit. One evening, as our father dozed in his hospital bed, Emma and I found ourselves alone in the waiting room. After a few minutes of awkward silence, she finally spoke. I've been thinking a lot about things, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. About how different everything is now. I used to be so jealous of you, she admitted, surprising me with her candor. Not when we were kids back then. I thought I had it all. But these last few years, watching you build your life in Seattle, I was so angry. It seemed like you had everything figured out while I was stuck. It wasn't about having things figured out, I said carefully. It was about making different choices. I know that now, she said, finally looking up. All those years I thought I was the lucky one, because Mom and Dad gave me everything. But they didn't do me any favors, did they?
You learned how to stand on your own. I never d- And when everything fell apart with my business, I had no idea how to rebuild, because I'd never built anything myself. It's never too late to learn, I offered gently. She gave a small laugh. That's what my therapist says too. I've been seeing her for about a year now. After Dad's anniversary dinner, something clicked. We sat in companionable silence for a while, the years of competition and resentment giving way to something that felt almost like understanding. After my father's successful surgery and during his recovery, a new family dynamic emerged. Without discussion, we each found our natural roles, not the rigid, assigned ones of the past, but fluid positions based on our actual strengths and contributions. On my last day before returning to Seattle, I sat beside my father's hospital bed. He reached for my hand. "I'm sorry," he said simply, his voice still weak but his eyes clear, "for all the times we made you feel less important, for all the times we didn't see what was right in front of us." I squeezed his hand gently. "I know, Dad. You did the right thing," he continued. "Moving away, building your own life. I'm proud of the woman you've become, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you are." As I flew back to Seattle that evening, back to Michael and the life we'd built together, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. My decision to leave hadn't been about punishing my family or proving a point. It had been about breaking free from a role that no longer served me, and finding my own path. In the end, that decision had benefited all of us. My parents had been forced to confront their favoritism and its consequences. Emma had begun the difficult process of developing independence and self-awareness, and I had found happiness on my own terms. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight harder within a broken system, but to step outside of it entirely and build something new. By creating distance, I had actually brought us closer, not to the family we used to be, but to the family we were finally becoming.